Hello world. Patricia O'Connor and Frida Reba Dorsey here. Pat forgot something. Hold on 1 second. Today on the Bonsai balcony, this is going to be part adolescence. My voice is cracking because of puberty. This is going to be part 3 on the Bonsai balcony of our work on this Literati. I've got some stuff that we haven't used before standing by and with explanations to follow. I am Patricia O'Connor. Here with me today is Frida Reba Dorsey, my partner in crime. And we are the Bonsai balcony, and this is our Literati Japanese black pine. In part 1, we went through and thinned the needles and cleaned up our 3rd year needles and some of our back growth and bottom growth. And in part 2, we went through and cut back, did the finish of our fall work where we select our buds and cut back to them and basically cut everything back to this. In part 3, I would like to put a little bit more motion in this tree if I think that when we get in there we can get away with it. And I say that because I don't want to, for the sake of production, get in here and feel locked into anything. So what I intend to do is use this bar and clamp it up high up here, and then clamp it here and here, and then use that to put a little bit of motion, put a little bit of kick back in this guy. And then once I've done that, I'll leave it tied down here and untie it up here and untie it up here, and then use it as a fulcrum and put a couple of wraps in it. And that'll come after we've put some copper wire to this. First things first, my partner is looking at me, expecting her in. And so yeah, that's what's going on. I've just got a bunch of different things standing by. I decided to wrap this bar in a rubber wire, a wire with some rubber coating on it. It's called a gear tie. It's kind of what you would use to bundle up cables or something, maybe. And I thought that might come in handy to help us protect this guy. So that's kind of the thought behind the brightly. If I seem distracted, I'm just looking all over to see how we did last time. I think we did pretty good last time. In between this time and last time, I started a little bit of the download process, but I've already started trying to accumulate what I think I'll need for this. And it's a one-man operation or a one-girl operation in this case, and I'm concerned a little. I'm not concerned with how I'll make the bin. I'm sure that bar will give us the action that we need to make that bin, and I'm pretty certain that's enough lever to facilitate a little bit of movement, and I'm pretty sure we can get a little bit of movement out that without hurting anything. And I'm also pretty sure that I'm not looking for to move the whole world. Just like I said, a little bit of movement on this guy. What I'm not sure about is how I would stabilize that pot, because it's a minimal pot. I couldn't figure out a way to strap this down with or without straps. There are hooks to the bottom of here just for that reason. But come up here, there's nothing to except the trunk. I thought about running slings around the trunk both ways and then attaching. I'm not comfortable with that. This trunk isn't that thick. It's flexible enough that I should be able to get movement on it. Not flexible enough that I want to attach slings to it and attach those to ratchet straps and start doing freaky stuff to it. We'll just have to see how that works out. If that looks to be working against us, this could be, this could be fraught with problems. Anything could happen here. That's just kind of what I'm saying. But this is what we have in mind. We intend to put a little bit of motion in this guy, and I'm kind of looking forward to this. So this bar is something that we haven't used before, and here's something else you guys haven't seen me use a lot of, and that's Rafia. I'm using Rafia now. The reason I'm using Rafia is I couldn't find a piece of hose. That's the only reason. Some people would wrap the bark or something in Rafia to protect it from the work that they're doing. I find in that case, Rafia is the thing that destroys the work. It's not really much of a protectant. What Rafia does best is it adds compression. If I'm going to put a super hard bend in this guy right here, here's the good and bad why I wouldn't do that. But in theory, if I was going to put a super hard bend in that, in the same way that we would want the wire to run right here where the apex of our bend is, so would we want some really tight, restrictive raffia to keep this from blowing out. Because when something blows out or it kinks, it blows out on the side and then gets skinny in the middle and folds over. And if you've got it tightly bound with raffia, you're restricting it from being able to blow out in that way. Now, that's the idea behind raffia. The other reason for me to not use raffia, and I've seen people who are a lot better than I do this, but they have hundreds of trees and they're doing demonstrations, and you watch them and they do their raffia. They'll put a piece of wire on here, put it in the shape of this, lay it up against here, tie it up with raffia, and then put raffia around it so that whenever they bend it, it'll stay in shape because they've laid a piece of wire in here and then wrapped it with the raffia. And then sometimes they'll put a piece of wire on the outside, and then when they're bending it, they never see the crack. So when I'm bending something, I'm watching. I'm looking to see. And on a Japanese black pine, if you see a crack, that doesn't mean you've killed the branch. That means you started something that you now have to watch. The place where this tree will open up has revealed itself, and if you need to put more motion in it than that, you can continue, but watch that crack. And if that crack opens up to where you see fiber, that's a good time to knock that off. But if you snap a branch, take your hands off of it. That's the best way to say it. This is what I'm guilty of too. Instinctually, if something goes snap and you're like, oh crap, you put it back. The crack kills all this stuff. You put it back, kills all this stuff. So if you snap something, give it one of these, go in with your cut paste. Instinctively, that's a hard thing to do because when you snap something, you just kind of want to act like you instinctively want to go, oh God, that didn't just happen, and put it right back and back away from it. But no, it did just happen, and you try to remember not to go forcing that piece that you just snapped back into place. So that's a little bit going in about that. And what I intend to use the raffia here for, I would have taken and wrapped this part in rubber, and the next point where this touches, I'm not going to use this bar to change this shape right here right now. What I'm going to use this bar for is to put motion in this piece. So wherever I tie it, which would be above here, I would put a piece of rubber here, so that when the bar comes up against it, it would come against that rubber. And then wherever it comes up to rest next, I would put it up there and I would put it up here. And instead I'm going to be doing that with Rafia. That's why we're using Rafia. That's why we're using Rafia today. So, having said that, I think we are probably at the Rafia part of our program. Frida? Oh. Such a sweet little girl. Probably, I think this is probably soaked long enough. It's really going to be an issue. Back in the bowl, Nessie. Alright. So, what I'm going to do is, you see a lot of people, this is already starting to bark over. I think that's pretty cool, I think. So what we're going to do is we do a little crossover piece, and then we come back over and pick it up. You want about a third of your raffia to overlap the last piece. What I like to do is this. You see most people will do this wrap and then pull it tight. Just as easy. I mean, really just as easy. You just put it inside itself like that. Because you got to pull it all the way through either way. And then when you pull it tight, it's a half hitch. And it stays tight. Again, that's in the knot manual, that would be a half hitch I'm putting in that. And normally, you saw the way I wrapped it around and caught it kind of on itself, and then just pulled it tight. You would normally do that every time anyway. I just put it inside the last loop before I pull it tight. And that is the first piece. That's our first piece there to help us protect. Oh, I forgot something. I think it'll be. No, I forgot something. God, I forgot something. I have to put the wire on here before I do all of that. Pat, what are you doing? Green half hitches aren't hard to get out either. You just kind of grab them where they cross and pull them out. How do you use that? Alright. This is going to be I'm going to use a fairly large, fairly heavy gauge wire for this. big copper. Man, that's not going to be the most fun to bend either. This is a tall tree. It's okay. One more of those. Well, that's 5 feet. That should be enough, huh? One more of those, Pat. Don't want to get up to the top and not have enough water. That would be unfortunate. Put that at a fairly steep angle, that cut that I just put in the wire, so that hopefully it'll be sharp and go down into the soil with a minimum of problems. Everybody look out. Pat sticks the copper wire into a light socket. Just kidding. Come on in. I thought you just saw the wood there, Pat. Give it a break. Taking anybody out with the wire, Patricia. Keeping an eye out for the camera, the dog. Clumsy bonsai person. I'm gonna need 2 of these. Would have been nothing like sitting back in your office chair with all of this laid out on the floor. About now seems like only way to fly. Easy. I'll take the second one. and I'll remember that I cut this one at 6 feet. You may have noticed I cut this at my span, my reach, which is 6'2". I'm not 6'2", but my span is 6'2". Easy, get out of here. Kind of see, I'm trying to support the wire as I bend it. I'm also pulling on the wire, every direction that I'm going with it to try to keep it snug against the tree early on. I'm not going to try to come back later and pull the wire after I've already got it wrapped, because I've got a daylight somewhere. It's just the time to get that. Like right there. Right? And then now I'm going to have to support it here. This guy, and then back up. Easy. Sometimes it gets hard like that, when it gets tough to pull up against the tree. Don't give up. Grab a tool. Sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's not. And then it was. That time it was easier. The tree used to have another branch right here, and it went up this way and did, it's one of the, yeah, it was one of those. I see people do that a lot. Before I saw people do that a lot, I cut that off because I didn't want the end result to be for that, golly, that's a hard thing. I didn't want the end result for that to be a bar branch that kind of wastes the shape of the tree. And I've seen that happen on older, beautiful Literatis. A lot of people have made that bend. I don't know. I know they know. I know they know what a bar branch is. Maybe that's their idea of the whimsicalness of Literati, that it ends in kind of a no-no. I might have taken that off before I knew what the unwritten rule was, but I would have seen this. I would have seen this lose its shape. This top lose its shape in front of it. That would have already happened, I think. The old thing that the adage I was saying, this way, this way, this way, and then this way. That's the going gets tough, I guess. Easy. Yeah, watch that. If I wanted a bend in here to stay, this wouldn't do it. So I think, and how much did I have left over? I had a foot left over. Okay. We'll do that again. Easy back. Just gonna run this one along the other one. I think it'll look nice. I think it'll look neat. We're okay here. I'm okay here. I see a problem with what I did here, and I see a potential problem with what I did here. You might be able to see this. Oh, I didn't think about it at the time. If I want to bend this down, I'm okay, but at some point I could be hampered by the wire right there in the armpit of this if I were bending it down enough, and I'm not going to bend it down that much anyway. But in another scenario, in another life, having a wire right there when you're going to take something down close, tight like that can cause you a problem. It can cause you to blow out there instead of the opposite of what you wanted to do, was be neater there. This is the end that I cut short. It is not. This is the end that it is. So I'm just gonna kind of lay this guy in there and grab a hold of it nice and tight. Point it somewhere where I won't lose an eye immediately. I'm trying to get this started. Just following the last one. Now, got that. Now we're gonna grab it here. Continue on around. This isn't the bend. This is making sure I don't hurt me or Frida. all that, I got a little bow. It bowed out away from the tree, ever so slightly down here. It doesn't kill me, but I was trying really hard to keep that snug all the way. Y'all saw me. Y'all saw me. Y'all saw me. Easy. Okay. Copper really does look nice on pine trees, and it ages well on them too, I would say. If it's allowed to live here long enough to age, that is. Had a dyslexia moment there for a second. Okay. Okay. Heavy sound. Yeah, that's gonna stay. Okay. That much will stay. It's gonna stay. we stuck, okay. The question is, can I get question I have is, can I get some movement out of this with that bar and hold it down? That's the other part of that question. Remember, this is just a bumper for the bar to rest up against instead of the skin. I'm not really putting this on the bark. I'm putting it on the edge of where the bark is. So if I were putting it on the bark, it wouldn't be something to protect the bark. It would just be the thing that broke. It would just be the thing that broke the bark. Yeah, tightening that up right there would be the thing that moment right there. So the idea is just to use this as a lever bar, try to put a tiny bit of motion in there. Then I'll break it loose from here and use it as the fulcrum the way we used our chopsticks whenever we made our Cheerios. Except we're not going to go nowhere near that crazy. You should probably get rid of that for you. Sorry. That tied there, that tied there, nothing tied here, and we're wanting to go. I gave it a little attitude. Yeah, I think we did. When you'll know. You didn't have wire like that. You big gummy. You big gummy. Alright, so I've added a little spiral to the game here. Added some motion to it. I didn't get hardly any motion down here. I saw it moving. I think it's too tight here. I probably would have had to gone with a heavier strand of probably would have had to go with a heavier strand of copper to been able to hold a move in there. I put a move in there, but I didn't see it hold all of it. It just held a tiny little bit. And I'm like, you know what? In the end, my inability to hold the base kept me from being able to control the bend. Also, this could have been tighter. I was making my bend that needed to be kind of drastic here ended up being kind of a rainbow here. But it's okay. It's okay. So that is part 3. This was kind of risky. I thought this was a kind of risky part. We were going to go a little. This is what I wanted to do as far as the spiral is concerned. I would have liked to have gotten a little bit more of a bend out of here. I may figure out another way to do that yet, but I probably would have to put a third wrap on there to get away with that. So yeah, just kind of the way that goes. But I'm happy with that overall. I think mission accomplished. I think our cleanup today gave the tree a future again. It has a future as a sparse literati with some good movement, and then this part where it took us to this little trunk bend here. I'm pretty happy. Pretty happy with that. Okay. Alright, so this will take us to our final part, and the final part was the part that I was kind of dreading at the beginning of this. It's the part I considered to be fairly tedious. Not so much now. The cleanup and everything that we did on the beginning of this on part 1 and part 2 has made the wiring of these pads something that'll be pretty easy, maybe a little time consuming, I don't know. I'll consider whether or not that could be a Saturday night. I mean, I know I'll do this. We'll just keep going like we're going. We'll let the tree relax a few days, aka we'll let Patricia relax for a few days, because this is Sunday. My next opening to do some work on this nice little tree would be Wednesday, which will be when I will have recovered. I have to go back to work to recover from this, y'all. And when I'm done with that, we'll come back and we'll wire these pads, and that'll set us up. That'll set us up for success on this tree for the next couple of years, I think. And I think on the whole, so far we've done pretty good work. The icing on the cake will be when these guys are back in a position like they're supposed to be in. You want me to drop those on my foot? When these are back in a position they belong in, like this, and maybe a little closer in like this, and a little bit better, and then all of these little hoops need to get put back, and their orientation needs to be reestablished, because they've been kind of going on their own all willy-nilly for a minute. Alright, so we're just going to stop it here before I drop something sharp on a foot or knock something over. I mean, I only say that because we've been really lucky with this so far. And like and subscribe if you guys have not already. Our next drop will be on, our next recording will be on Wednesday. I'm not sure exactly how these are going to fall. When we go back in and start wiring these pads. And again, that's going to be a lot easier it's going to be, that has gone from something that I was kind of dreading to something that's going to be just so nice to do now. I appreciate you. Frida appreciates you, and thank you all so much for watching. I cheated the live. That's our late. That's our late in the day live. Thank you all so much for watching. Oh, do a rotate, Pat. Okay, I can do a rotate.